You know that feeling when you think you've got a handle on your health and then something pops up? Makes you realize there's a whole area you haven't really explored deeply.
Oh, definitely.
Especially when it comes to something as, well, intimate as vaginal health. Sometimes feels like there are just more questions than answers.
Mm-hmm. It can be complex.
So today we're diving into a topic you might not be familiar with, granuloma inguinale. It's also called Donovanosis.
Right. And it's a rare but actually quite serious sexually transmitted infection caused by a bacterium, Klebsiella granulomatis.
Okay, Klebsiella granulomatis. And it's more common in certain parts of the world.
Yeah, mostly tropical and subtropical regions. But, understanding how the body reacts to this kind of thing, it really shines a light on how interconnected our health is. It's quite fascinating, actually.
Absolutely. So the key thing, the main characteristic of Donovanosis seems to be these painless, progressive ulcers, usually on the genital area.
Exactly. Painless is the key word there, often.
So our goal today, our mission for this deep dive, is really to unpack that connection. How does Donovanosis link to overall vaginal health, and, what can we actually do to maintain well-being?
Sounds good. We should probably cover how it impacts vaginal health, maybe indirectly, why keeping that balance is so vital, and then get into some practical stuff.
Yeah, practical strategies, maybe probiotics.
Mm-hmm.
We'll look at a specific product called Balance Complex too. Okay, so let's really get into it. Granuloma inguinale, Donovanosis. Lay the groundwork for us.
Right. Okay. So as we said, it's a chronic bacterial STI. The telltale sign is these ulcers, they gradually get bigger, and they can show up on the genitals.
Yeah.
But also the perineum, that's the skin between the genitals and anus, or even in the groin area.
Okay. And you mentioned painless, which is distinctive.
Very distinctive. And maybe why it can sometimes go unnoticed for a bit longer than you'd expect. It's not like some other STIs where pain hits you early on.
Right.
But, and this is important, these ulcers bleed easily.
Yeah.
Like if they're touched or irritated.
That lack of pain is definitely striking. Almost worrying how you might dismiss it early on.
Exactly.
But if it's left untreated, these lesions spread can cause quite a bit of tissue damage.
They can, yes. Progressive spread, extensive damage is possible over time.
And transmission, just to be clear, it's direct sexual contact with the lesions.
Correct. Direct contact with infected lesions. Now, the good news is it is treatable with antibiotics. That's crucial. But what we really want to explore is that indirect impact on vaginal health, even though the main symptoms are external.
Right. Because even if the ulcers are on the outside, the body's fighting this infection constantly, isn't it?
Precisely. And that leads us to the first point, chronic inflammation and the immune response.
Yeah.
Your immune system is working overtime, basically, trying to deal with the Klebsiella granulomatis. This sustained effort, even if it's focused on the lesions, can create this sort of low-grade background inflammation in the surrounding tissues, the reproductive tissues generally. And that inflammation, well, it can potentially mess with the delicate balance inside the vagina. Things like the pH level, the mix of microbes, the vaginal flora, and even the local immune defenses there.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like the body's resources are tied up and it has spillover effects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which brings us to opportunistic infections and microbial imbalance. This is really central when we talk vaginal health.
Yeah, those beneficial bacteria, the lactobacillus.
They are the absolute champions. They produce lactic acid, keep the vagina acidic around pH 4.5, which most harmful bacteria just can't handle.
Okay.
But the stress of an STI, like Donovanosis, maybe even the antibiotics used to treat it, well, that can disrupt things. It can knock back the lactobacillus population. And when that happens, the environment becomes less acidic, more alkaline, and that makes it easier for other, less desirable organisms to take hold.
So things like BV, yeast infections.
Exactly. Bacterial vaginosis, yeast infections, even UTIs, urinary tract infections. Your risk for those can go up when the natural balance is disturbed.
So the body's natural defenses are sort of weakened. Okay. What about tissue integrity and dryness? The sources mention that too. How does an external issue cause internal dryness?
Well, think about inflammation again. Even external inflammation can affect the health and sort of resilience of nearby tissues. The information suggests that changes around the lesions might lead to a subtle feeling of dryness or irritation within the vaginal area itself.
Okay.
And that obviously impacts comfort, maybe during sex, maybe just day to day. And over time, even small discomforts, they add up. They can affect quality of life, maybe even self-confidence.
Definitely. Okay, this next point, I wouldn't have immediately thought of this connection. Emotional and psychological stress. How does that tie into vaginal health when you're dealing with something like Donovanosis?
No, it's a huge piece of the puzzle.
Hmm.
Dealing with any chronic health issue is stressful, right? It's emotionally draining.
Yeah.
And that stress, that anxiety, it can have real physical effects. Hormones are a key link. Chronic stress affects cortisol levels.
The stress hormone.
Right. Which can mess with your overall hormonal balance, potentially impacting the vaginal environment. Plus, when you're stressed or anxious, sometimes self-care habits slip. Maybe hygiene isn't as consistent.
I can see that.
And finally, stress dampens your overall immune function. And we know the immune system is vital for keeping that vaginal environment stable and healthy. It really is all connected.
It really is a web, isn't it? Okay, so we've seen how Donovanosis, even starting externally, can ripple inwards and affect vaginal health indirectly, which really hammers home why it's so important to prioritize vaginal health even while getting treated for Donovanosis. So, what are the main benefits of focusing on vaginal wellness here?
Well, number one, reducing the risk of those secondary infections we just talked about, BV, yeast, UTIs. A balanced environment, good bacteria, acidic pH, that's your natural barrier.
Right, the first line of defense.
Exactly. And beyond that, just comfort. Healthy vaginal tissues mean better comfort day to day,
Right.
which boosts confidence, quality of life. Well-lubricated, resilient tissues are also just better at handling normal hormonal shifts. Friction during intercourse, minor irritations, they just cope better.
And it sounds like it might even help the body's own defenses in that area.
Precisely. A balanced environment, less inflammation, that can actually enhance the local immune responses. Help your body recover more efficiently from the infection, from any irritation.
Okay.
And, looping back to the stress point, proactively taking care of yourself this way, it has positive emotional ripple effects. You can reduce stress, support emotional balance. That's huge when you're managing a chronic condition.
Okay, so let's get practical. What are some actual strategies listeners can use to support their vaginal health during and maybe after dealing with Donovanosis?
Right. Well, the absolute foundation, non-negotiable, is sticking to the medical treatment. The antibiotics prescribed for the Donovanosis itself. That's step one.
Got it. Medical treatment first.
Always. But alongside that, lifestyle and self-care make a big difference. Nutrition and hydration, they're fundamental. A good diet supports hormones, immunity, tissue repair.
And water, hydration.
Crucial. Keeps mucous membranes, including vaginal tissues, moist and elastic. Helps prevent dryness and irritation.
Okay. What about other lifestyle things? Exercise, stress.
Yeah. Regular exercise, moderate, feels good for you, improves circulation, general health. And stress reduction is key. Things like meditation, deep breathing, maybe gentle yoga.
Why stress reduction specifically?
Because managing stress hormones helps your immune response and your overall hormonal balance, both of which, as we've seen, impact vaginal health.
Right, those indirect links again. Okay, what about specific hygiene? That seems really important here.
Gentle hygiene is absolutely key. Avoid harsh soaps, anything with fragrances, and definitely avoid douching. All those things can disrupt the natural balance.
So what should people use?
Mild, fragrance-free cleansers are best. And breathable cotton underwear is always a good idea. Also, change out of damp clothes, quickly swimsuits, gym gear to minimize moisture that can encourage unwanted growth.
Good habits. And paying attention to your body.
It's so important. If you notice anything unusual, discharge changes, odor, itching, discomfort, get it checked out promptly. Treating things like BV or yeast infections early stops them becoming chronic problems, especially when you're already dealing with Donovanosis.
Okay. And this is where probiotics come in, yeah? Our sources mentioned considering them. How do they actually help?
Right. Probiotics, especially ones with specific vaginal lactobacillus strains, can be really beneficial. Their main job is to help replenish those good bacteria.
To restore the balance.
Exactly. Restore the balance, maintain that acidic pH, which keeps pathogens out. A healthy population of good bacteria can also help modulate the local immune response, reduce inflammation.
Which helps with dryness and sensitivity.
Potentially, yes. Easing dryness and sensitivity, and by keeping harmful bacteria and fungi in check, they can be a really valuable tool for preventing recurrent infections, BV, yeast, UTIs.
So it's like reinforcing the body's natural defenses.
It's a really interesting non-hormonal approach, especially for women recovering from something like Donovanosis or dealing with longer-term effects, supporting those natural defenses.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the information we looked at specifically mentions a product, Balance Complex, calling it a targeted vaginal probiotic. Tell us about that.
Okay, so Balance Complex is presented as this specifically formulated supplement. The aim is to help restore that healthy microbial balance, reduce vaginal tissue inflammation, and strengthen local immune defenses down there. The idea is it uses a select blend of probiotic strains plus some other ingredients with antimicrobial or anti-inflammatory effects to help keep the vaginal environment stable and healthy, especially during stressful times, like dealing with an infection.
And the info highlighted its history.
Yeah, I mentioned it's been around over 10 years, lots of capsules sold, lots of positive reviews reported. It's also noted for having a high concentration, 100 billion CFUs per gram, and including cranberry and Donovanosis, which people often link to urinary tract health, described as a maximum strength 17-in-1 strain blend, targeting things like odor, itching, discharge. Also mentions it's non-GMO, made in FDA-registered, GMP-certified facilities.
Sounds quite comprehensive. What about the key ingredients? What's actually in it?
It's quite a list. There's a blend of lactobacillus strains, acidophilus for producing lactic acid, maintaining that PHA, rhamnosus for immune response and inflammation, Reuteri for microbiome stability and maybe tissue repair, Plantarum for antioxidant properties, tissue integrity, and Bacillus coagulans for overall microbial stability, long-term balance.
Okay, so a range of beneficial bacteria. What else?
Then there's the cranberry and Donovanosis blend, often used together to stop bacteria sticking to urinary tract and vaginal walls, potentially reducing UTI risk. Oregano leaf extract is in there for natural antimicrobial properties, controlling harmful stuff without wiping out the good guys, ideally. Caprylic acid is included to target yeast overgrowth. Then you have enzymes, protease, and cellulase, which might help break down bacterial biofilms.
Biofilms, what are those?
They're like protective shields that communities of bacteria build. Makes them harder to get rid of. Breaking them down could help the probiotics work better.
Okay. Makes sense. Keep going, there's more.
Yep. Aloe vera leaf for soothing, anti-inflammatory effects on irritated tissue. Arabinogalactin, a prebiotic fiber to boost immune response and tissue resilience. Anise seed for antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory actions, calming sensitive tissue. Black walnut hulls as a natural antifungal and antibacterial. Wormwood for immune resilience and flora balance support. And finally, reishi mushroom, known for potentially reducing chronic inflammation and enhancing immune response.
Wow. Okay, that is a comprehensive list. Each seems to have a specific role. So bring it back to Donovanosis. How does something like Balance Complex specifically aim to help women managing that?
Well, it aims to support in a few key ways. First, by restoring that microbial balance with the lactobacillus, helping maintain the acidic pH. That's crucial when the body's defenses are busy elsewhere.
Right, discouraging bad bacteria.
Second, the anti-inflammatory ingredients might help soothe dryness or irritation in surrounding tissues, improving comfort during and after the infection.
Okay.
Third, by promoting that healthy microbiome equilibrium. The goal is to lower the risk of those secondary infections, BV, yeast, UTIs.
Makes sense.
And finally, the ingredients supporting immunity and tissue integrity could help the body be more resilient, adapt better to stress, leading to maybe a more positive approach to sexual health and daily life.
But it's part of a bigger picture, right?
Absolute crucial point. The information stresses this is part of a holistic approach. The primary medical treatment for Donovanosis is essential. This is intended to support that, alongside medical advice, good hygiene, other preventive measures. It's not a replacement for medical care.
Got it. So wrapping up then, it really seems that granuloma inguinale, even though it looks like an external issue, it can definitely ripple inwards and impact internal vaginal health.
Yes, that connection is clear.
Which just underscores how important proactive, comprehensive self-care is, focusing on balance, support, tissue integrity. And it sounds like tools like Balance Complex could be a useful part of that care, alongside medical advice and lifestyle choices.
That sums it up really well.
Yeah.
And thinking bigger picture, vaginal wellness.
Yeah.
It fluctuates for so many women, doesn't it? Sometimes things feel fine. Other times maybe there's dryness or an odor or just things feel a bit off.
Totally. And it can be caused by so many things: hormones, diet, stress, even products we use.
Exactly. Trying to figure out what's going on down there can feel like solving a mystery sometimes, even without a specific infection like Donovanosis.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, the information we looked at mentioned a resource for that. It's called vaginalquiz.com. That's vaginalquiz.com. Sounds like a quick science-backed quiz for a personalized vaginal health analysis, like under 2 minutes.
A vaginal quiz. Yeah, the idea of getting a customized breakdown sounds interesting. The sources suggest it helps identify potential imbalances based on your symptoms, your lifestyle.
And gives tailored suggestions.
Yeah, expert-backed suggestions tailored to you. Could be supplements, could be habit changes to help restore and maintain balance.
Kind of like a convenient cheat sheet for understanding your intimate health, maybe, without awkward appointments or endless Googling.
That seems to be the positioning, yeah.
So if listeners are curious about what's influencing their vaginal health, want a more informed, empowered approach, it sounds like vaginalquiz.com might be a helpful starting point. It's about listening to your body, taking control smartly.
Absolutely. That's the goal, isn't it? Feeling empowered, resilient, managing your overall health and your intimate health, understanding the connections, having the tools and knowledge.
Well said. Couldn't agree more. And on that note, that does bring us to the end of our deep dive for today.
It does.
We really hope this chat shed some light on that connection between granuloma inguinale and vaginal health, maybe a connection people hadn't thought much about, and hopefully provided some valuable insights and practical info.
Hope so too.
Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.